What's up guys, this is the second day of the opening of the Serial Killer Expo in Berlin, and I am in the dining room of the excellent Astra Hotel nearby. And before I head up to the Expo, I want to show you what's my usual breakfast every single morning since I've ever been here since for 4 weeks. So this is your typical breakfast in Germany. Pork. With pork. More pork. Some cheese. But I think I'll have a second serving of pork. And for this video, expect the worst. So it's quiet because everybody's going for lunch, out for lunch. This is the entrance, and guess whose little hand was used for this? Yes, mine. Still red from it. Our first stop is at the Pickton banner. So we have those new Pickton objects that we didn't have in the other exhibitions. Letters that he sent before he died. So you have his full address there and some weird drawings. So welcome to the Serial Killer exhibition, Robert Pickton. Well, he's dead now, so. But maybe he would have been proud, who knows? Next, Kaczynski, another new edition. The Kaczynski letters are extremely hard to get because he was in Supermax Florence, and they didn't really want him to have interaction with the outside world. Why he did, he would even send studies and manuscript to be published. This is one of the few letters that was available on the market. And see here, he mentions Farrell House, which happens to be a book company that published one of my writings. And the funny thing is, I was published in the same book as Kaczynski. The book is called Apocalypse Culture 2. I have an essay that's called it's an essay on cannibalism. I can't even remember the name of this essay. That's how old it is. But the funny thing is, after that essay, right after that essay, the next page is an essay by Ted Kaczynski. So I share a book with Ted Kaczynski. Fun fact. Next new thing. A letter from Richard Chase, the Vampire of Sacramento, to Robert Ressler, who appears as a fictional character in the series Mindhunters. So what's interesting is that Robert Ressler actually interviewed Chase for his program, the VICAP. There will be another object next week that we are waiting for. It's a mummified rat that was found in Richard Chase's house by the police. So this will be standing next to this letter sent to Robert Ressler. So we got this from Robert Ressler's daughter. Ressler has passed away a few years ago. Okay, if you're watching this by the time that I have edited and put this online, you probably have seen or are about to see the Gein series by Ryan Murphy. And you've seen this already, but what you haven't seen yet is this edition of Time magazine, the famous Time magazine with those beautiful pictures that were taken back then. And most important, 2 Edward Gein signatures. So very clear signatures, one with a drawing behind a signature by his judge Goldmar. who wrote a book on the case. He was nicknamed the Psycho Judge. So we have a new thing in this expo, is those busts created by my good friend Roberto Paparella, who owns a museum near Milan called Criminis. If you're in Milan, check it out. And next, a new edition, a banner. It was one of my ideas on Donald Henry Gaskins with a few things from my collection. Those two things. The book, which is quite rare, the biography of Gaskins, and a tape that came with the book, where you actually hear his voice. And next to it, there's a letter. So letters by written by Gaskins are pretty rare. So very thrilled to have this object here. Next thing, a bigger Ramirez space. So if you've seen the other videos, you know that there's my tie that I used to wear in the morgue. But the new things that are pretty cool are, first, a watch that he sent to the ring. So I had the watch in my hands, and he had removed the battery because he couldn't set it with the battery. So it was interesting to see this little detail. There's a note above, signed by Doreen, testifying that it's really his watch. And next, even rarer than this, it's actual letters from Ramirez's brother, Robert Ramirez. So it's family letters. Actually, some of them are pretty old. See, this thing is signed 1988. So he had been in prison for only 4 years when he wrote that. That's fascinating. Family photos too, as you can see. Maybe you've seen some of them because they've been published online, but these are the original photos. We got a new Bundy display here. So the first ever article on the Lake Sammamish mentioning the name Ted. So that's pretty interesting. The death warrant, which was in Paris, but also the guilty verdict signed by the judge. So that's a very rare document too that we got from True Crime Collective. Oh yeah, another thing that I forgot to tell you, now we have videos. And I edited the videos, so I chose the videos when they told me, okay, we're looking for videos. I had to pick up 10 videos for the entire exhibition. I chose one on Ted. And the indictment, because I like the attitude, it really shows how arrogant he was and how defiant. That's a very interesting video. There's one on Camper there. So that's the interview where he's talking about his glasses. It's a very cool addition. It gives more dynamism, it's more interesting, I think, to have videos. Maybe we will develop that too for the other expos. Here, another interesting thing is a mask. So it's a replica of the famous mask, but what's not a replica is the rope around. So you see the certificate of authenticity. And the rope was directly taken from Rader's shed by a neighbor, which is crazy. So that's the actual rope, a rope that he used in everyday life. This doesn't mean that he used it for bondage or whatever, but maybe he did, you never know. So it's pretty cool that it was used for a replica of the mask. Another thing we have from Rader here is this Christmas card. I've seen this type of drawings before that he does, and finance sheets. So yes, I don't know. I'm not gonna give my personal advice on Rader because I know that he has these little spies everywhere who are spying on what's being said about him in the memorabilia business. But yeah, typical. Here, main new addition, it's Gacy's typewriter that he used to write Question of Doubt. Got this through True Crime Collective, to Jordan. So very interesting piece. This is the certificate where he says that he actually owned the piece, and this is signature on top. Extremely cool item to have, museum quality. But this is even crazier, if you ask me. This is a sheet, a sketch done by the police of the crawl space at the house, and you can see stains on it, and it's actual stain from the crawl space. Even cooler document, a complaint for demolition for the house, the orders of sentence and commitment by Luis Garripo, a convocation for a hearing also by Garripo, and guilty verdict signed by members of the jury, original copy. Really cool, from the Circuit Court, Criminal Division. Extremely rare documents. I won't tell you how we got them, but very cool. And a Gacy bust that wasn't there before too. Pretty cool bust, if you ask me. Next we have another display with a season's greeting card signed by Gacy, a replica of the shoes, and the TV set that he had on death row. One of the last TV set, maybe the last. Again, certificate signed by John Wayne Gacy, again courtesy of True Crime Collective. A new edition from Dan Kay, the collection of Dan Kay, a pair of glasses and a Ben Sherman shirt belonging to Dennis Nilsen. Very cool items too. You can see this new pair of glasses in several prison photos of Nilsen. And a spoon from the Muswell Hill, the place where I lived. Monster of Florence. Again, if you watch this, you're probably watching also the series on Netflix. And a bust of Pacciani, the one and only Pacciani. New also, the Dahmer room. So there was a room already on Dahmer, but we have lots of new objects to show you in the room, beginning by a transcript of the phone call that the neighbors made to the police when they saw a kid naked, bleeding in the street. They called the police. The police brought him back to Dahmer, and you know the rest of the story. Then we have rubble from the foundation of the Oxford apartments and a signature, or Jeff Dahmer's signature, courtesy of Fritz Fell, also ended up in the Dan Kay collection, as well as an article from the New York Post with, as you can see, an advertisement for all-you-can-eat ribs. Again, a video of Dahmer, the famous glasses, you know all about them. This is pretty cool. The psychological assessments, so they were published by me in German but also in English if you want to have a look at them under the title Dahmer, the Psych Reports. So those are the actual psychiatric and psychological reports of Dahmer before trial, and they were also used as exhibits, and this is the actual original exhibits from the trial, the Jeffrey Dahmer trial. So this is for me one of the coolest objects that we have here, as well as the original list of charges established by the Circuit Court with, hear me out, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Dahmer signatures. 3 signatures on each page. Incredible. Next we have an original copy of the exhibits list with all the stuff that they found or that they used during the trial, which include, as you can see somewhere, the diagram of the altar, which is incredible. The diagnostic, Dahmer's confession, a statement from Robert Ressler, the FBI agent, and the photos of the victims. We have a guilty plea, also signed by Dahmer, the original one, and verdict forms signed by the jurors. Was Dahmer guilty, not guilty by reason of insanity? The answer at short time was no. Amazing document, original documents, again, which brings this exhibition to the next level. Nobody can compete with us now. I mean, we have the best collection in the world. I dare you to find a museum or an exhibition anywhere in the world that has such unique documents. Here we bulked up the thing on Doc Clark with lots of photos, hair, signed stuff, and the West with newspapers from the time, so you can see that they drew Rose West as a spider, an evil spider, the face of evil. Next we have a portion curated by Dr. Chaumet, who specialized, a French professor specialized in historical serial killers. So usually his work is about serial killers from before Jack the Ripper, such as Elizabeth Bathory or Burke and Hare, the grave robbers, Pomeroy here, and Verdzeni here, and Fish. Fish was after Jack the Ripper, of course, but here we have, hear me out, not only a signature, which is amazing, but also from Jordan Cook, from True Crime Collective, the Albert Fish typed confession. Amazing document, the original manuscript, the typed confession, where he confesses to the murder. Okay, who are those three evil bastards? I do recognize Sagawa here, Manson here. Who's this motherfucker? Okay, never heard of him. What's new here? Here we have a t-shirt worn by the Vampire of Paris. Worn by the Vampire of Paris, as you can see from this wonderful picture there. Really cool piece of history, personally history, but now a piece of museum. And what do we have next? Krista Pike with a letter from Krista to me. So if you want to read the letter of this wonderful letters signed eternally Krista Pike, just come to the Expo. Next, well, there's Germany's worst eater, Armin Meiwes. We have already shown this in Paris. Nothing new here, but you know, we made it so that the Germans feel proud about their own heritage, if you will. But next, another idea of mine. I introduce you to the wall of Luka. So this is actually me having fun, lots of fun. I got a hold through Dan Kay of a stack of letters from Magnotta to a guy called Matthew, like hundreds and hundreds of pages, all about himself, and one portion of the letters was about him asking Matthew to change his Wikipedia page. So here you see what's his he even gives him some kind of formal certificate where he says, I grant you the right to change my Wikipedia page, and he wants him to say that he was a known model working in Berlin, etc., that his IQ was determined to be 138 bullshit, and that he was a chess master of some sort. But most crazy for me is all those pictures that he sent that he wanted to put on his Wikipedia page, him as a model. So why recreate a Luka Magnotta page? Why? I know that many people hate him and will find this absolutely stupid, but no, look, hear me out. First, he was arrested like a couple of blocks away from here, Berlin, so it's a Berlin story. Second, most important, what does this show you? This is the story of a pure narcissistic, extreme narcissism. The guy wanted to change his Wikipedia page with just pictures of him as a model. I mean, that was the perfect occasion for me to go beyond an object or a letter and just show the true nature of a psychopath or a sociopath, because this is the part of the deal. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if Magnotta knew that somewhere in Berlin there is some kind of shrine to him, to his memory with his photos, etc., he wouldn't see the irony behind it, and he would actually think that people wank over it. So, you know, for me, I think this is a work of art. Here we have a little section on German cases. We are waiting for the shirt of Joachim Kroll. There's something on Jürgen Bartsch, Fritz Honka. This is from my collection. This is also from my collection on Unterweger, you know, the guy from the Cecil Hotel, etc. You know the story if you're a real true crime fanatic. And this is my personal touch too. Well, Unterweger was a personal touch. This is another one. So they're both Austrian, by the way. I know they're not German, they're Austrian, but whatever. My personal touch, because this guy was the inspiration of one of my favorite movies, which is called Angst. So having a signed postcard from this guy, that means a lot to me, and it's pretty cool to have it in the expo here, and I'll keep this on the side for the other expos. So it started to rain, and it's the occasion for me to show you the roof of this magnificent structure. See how beautiful this is. This is old wood pillars that you can see here. They're amazing. This gives an entire new dimension to the expo, I think, and you can hear the raindrops on the roof. Another video here, a little interview that came out recently from Israeli TV of Richard, talking about how he talks about more or less his sex interests. It's kind of awkward because, you know, you can see sometimes the darkness in his eyes, but sometimes he's just shy about it. Just weird. The interview gives weird vibes. So I chose to put this interview, in the Hybristophilia section, of course, and shameless plug on my book, Legions of the Night Stalker. Another new room, also totally my creation. We have amplified the room dedicated to horror movies and how reality inspires horror movies. So there's 6 sections, or 7, I can't remember. First one obviously is about Ed Gein and all the movies that he inspired, from Psycho here to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is with a cool Bill Moseley signature that he made to me when I met him a few years ago, and a signed baseball bat by a baseball whatever, by Gunnar Hansen, the original and only Leatherface. And here we have a mask created by my friend Guillaume. I just have to glue it back because there's a little fuck up here. And a Acherontia atropos. a death head moth. Here, 3 Hannibals, all signed. Only one is missing, is the French dude who played Hannibal and Hannibal, not Animal. And the French dude who died because he crashed against a tree while he was skiing. And I'm not joking, it's really what happened to him. The Hannibal curse, maybe. Anyways, 3 Hannibals, Mads Mikkelsen, for me the best, even better than Anthony Hopkins. I know that people will debate endlessly about it, but I think that Hopkins, out of the 3, gives the less the less credible and the less authentic interpretation of Lecter. If you read the books, Lecter is Brian Cox first in Mindhunters. Then maybe, yeah, Mads Mikkelsen got this thing that is described in the book. Hopkins is just Hopkins. He's playing himself in the movies. He's just doing his own performance, but it's far away from who Hannibal Lecter is. It's just Lecter interpreted by Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins. Whatever, he's still cool, but not my favorite Hannibal. Here, we're talking about movies in general. Everything inspired by real cases, David Fincher, my friend John Borowski, and Ryan Murphy, and a signature by John Douglas, and the book that's mentioned in the series Mindhunters. And oh yeah, I had to include Rampage, one of my favorite movies, loosely based on Richard Chase, with this magnificent shot of him smearing blood all over his face. Then we have a section on Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and Maniac. So stills from Henry, here and here, and a signed Elijah Wood for the remake of Maniac. But this is the actual people who more or less influenced the movies. Richard Cottingham with a signed envelope, pretty rare. We got it from Vronsky. And this is my collection, a vampire drawing from Henry Lee Lucas, and a signed picture disc of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, signed by Joe Coleman, my friend Joe Coleman, to French cannibal killer Nico Claux. Let me show you the signature. It says to my good friend, sign Joe Coleman, Nick. Nick, this is me, Joe Coleman is Joe Coleman. Another new thing on the Happy Face Killer with, needs more light, but that's the new series by Paramount. If you've seen it, you have your opinion on it, but this is real stuff from Keith Jasperson. And yeah, we had something from Dexter. We have to put it again. I don't know where it is. We'll find it. This is, oh yeah, it talks about Giallo. I wanted to include Giallo movies because for me they're the foundation of slasher movies. So I had posters that I had ordered. I'm still waiting for them. But otherwise, yeah, we have this signed stuff from American slasher movies. Last but not least, my good friend Danny Rolling, who inspired the movie Scream. So this is very special. It's a rendition of him as Gemini killer. So he saw the Gemini killer as possessing him. But you know what? Gemini killer, it actually comes from The Exorcist 3. So like Jeffrey Dahmer, Danny Rolling was obsessed with this movie, The Exorcist 3. He used the name during trial, saying, yeah, it's the Gemini. I was possessed by the Gemini. But when you know the story, you know that he took it from the film, The Exorcist 3. Signed Scream mask. American Psycho. So I've included American Psycho, a signed copy from Christian Bale, and stuff about the Ken and Barbie killers, of course, Paul Bernardo was obsessed by American Psycho and saw himself as some kind of Canadian version of Patrick Bateman. And behind there's this really cool poster from Golden Glove, one of my favorite movies. I wanted to include it. Great poster, if you ask. The stuff from The Actual Murder, Fritz Honka, a little bit further. Yeah, no, just brilliant. I'm happy of how it turns like. And now we are entering my pièce de résistance. This, I have been working on it for a long time. It's about the fantasies of serial killers. We call it the shock room. So first we start slowly, and you know, we don't offend anyone with the H.H. Holmes, but there's a very cool signature, an actual signature by H.H. Holmes, which is extremely rare again. And well, this also is rare, is an actual newspaper article on the execution, to be hanged. As you can see, very cool article from 1893. Next, the altar drawing made by Dahmer for his defense attorney, Wendy Patricus. All right. The recreation of the altar itself, you saw it if you've seen my videos about Paris. There's even another chair where he could sit on. BTK torture table, but now we are entering the room, the shock room. So, fun fact because I have to explain. When I had this room in mind, I wanted to be the room to be not allowed for minors and people who are too sensitive for this, because of the content. I wanted to make it like a horror, the ultimate horror room. When you're into true crime, this is the center of Dante's Inferno, if you will. It's the worst of the worst, what you can actually see when you're into serial killers. So there's a feature on Parker Ray with actual drawings that were found by the police in his trailer, photos of inside the trailer, Polaroid, a recreation of the box that he used on one of some of his victims. Here shouldn't be on it, but there's a recipe written by Otis Toole. It's about cannibalism. So there's this guy from Venezuela and Bishkov, but also folk used by Armin Mivers, and the German version of the Cannibal Cookbook. That's probably my favorite thing in the new things that are here. I designed it from A to Z. So I really wanted to include Sergey Golovkin in this experience, in the serial killer exhibition. Not only because I'm fascinated with the case, but also because I wrote a book on him recently. It's a case that very few people know outside of Russia. It's the worst of the worst case that you will ever hear about. It involves cannibalism, but that's standard for Russia, but also skinning teenagers alive, torturing them with a blowtorch like this, making them kill each other, mutilating them in horrifying ways. And you can see the result in some of the crime scene pictures that you can see here, which are horrendous. But also, I wanted to include this piece by my good friend Daniel from Russia. He works for one of Russia's most popular true crime channels, which has hundreds of thousands of followers. So Daniel Kuznetsov, you can contact him on VKontact or X Sanjusic. And you can see from the details, he's an amazing artist, very inspired by Joe Coleman, and this tells the story of the man that the press called Fisher, with pretty grim details. there's a rendering of Chikatilo because they were both operated at the same time, more or less. The way that he would dismember the teenagers. There's even a recreation of one of the photos that's here, right there. Very grim portrait. One of my ideas for the expo was to include a thing on snuff movies. So this is the thing. We have Slivko here, the very first man in the world who actually filmed snuff movies from Russia. Here you have the maniacs from that video that went viral a few years ago in Ukraine. And here you have recreations of Polaroids from the Berdala case and the Dahmer case. So a really cool piece. But last but not least, a Polaroid impulse camera belonging to Nicolas Claux, used to take photos of the cadavers he autopsied in a morgue and of the caskets he opened in graveyards. So I had to include this. Maybe it's not good taste to have this here. I don't know, at least it's authentic. So it's here, people can see it. Now they can decide if it's good taste or not. This little corner here also was something I wanted to include on bondage and pornography, with an entire case on the works of Gerard Schaefer. Drawings, of course, because he was obsessed with hanging, but also passages from Killer Fiction, which is a pure work of art, of literary art. So I wanted to include that. That was a personal project of mine. I also wanted to include the magnificent drawings of Daniel Siebert, those, Jack Travick, which I used to correspond with for a long time, also Siebert, David Gore. So those are actual photos just to show how he tied up his victims. He had a specific way of tying them up. I also used to correspond with that guy. And BTK, so the thing with BTK, he would draw his fantasies first, like this. Then he would recreate them by posing the bodies in certain ways. So I wanted to show the fantasy versus the reality, how he would, like an artist more or less, he would recreate the murders. Okay, when I started this little corner, I told you that there was something that happened with the last section. So I'm going to show you the section and I'm going to tell you what happened. So this is a section on the signature. So I wanted to show extremely explicit photos of what is called the signature, which is something that killers do to their victims, which are not necessary to accomplish the crime. So usually it's mutilation and posing the victims. So there used to be way more photos, like you can see still the holes in the wall. This is where the photos were hanging from. So there were like photos from the Richard Chase case. There were more explicit crime scene photos of the Robinson case, more photos of the Cottingham case, and from Steve Pennell and a few others, where the photos were showing explicitly sexual mutilation, breast cut up, close-ups, victims posed in a very explicit, obscene ways, and just plain gore all over the place. It was really impressive. Except that yesterday we had a press conference, and after the press conference the journalists were free to walk in the exhibit and just, you know, take it in, so they could write a paper on it. And I was following them more or less, going from room to room, and then I was walking here and I saw two girls, kind of young, like in their 20s, and they were looking at this wall, and they were like standing like mouth open, right? Totally white, like ghost, like if they had seen a ghost. So, you know, I'm dead sensitized, so I don't have the actual eye. I cannot, you know, when I see those photos, for me it's, you know, yeah, it's extremely gory, but I'm not really shocked. It's, you know, crime scene photos. But those girls, I could see the shock in the face. So I asked them, they were German, I asked them, okay, what do you think of this new exhibit we have here? Because it's the first time we have it. I'm not sure about the impact it would have on people. And they looked at me and they're like, no, we cannot, you've crossed the line here. So I was like, okay. So you really think that people will be offended, or that they will complain, and they said, yeah, honestly, so far the exhibition is beautiful, but if you keep this here, I mean, this is horrifying. These people will be scarred for life, but just by watching the photos, they really will be scarred for life. So you ask for our advice, we give you advice. We are not really into murder and things, and so far we took it in. We thought that everything was interesting, extremely interesting, but this is too much. And it made me think, okay, when you're into crime, yeah, maybe those things, you can look at them and decide that they have a place here. But I'm thinking about all those people who come to the exhibit out of curiosity, and that's 80% of the people who visit the exhibit. When you see the numbers, there was 150,000 people who came to the expo in Paris, just in Paris, and most of them, 80%, out of curiosity. They were more or less into true crime, but they weren't obsessed or anything, you know. So those people coming to that room, I think, yeah, we would have complaints. Probably we would have to actually shut the museum down, and we don't want that. So I took the personal decision to self-censor me and remove the things. We were gonna paint this black or whatever, so it doesn't show the holes. But yes, it's the only time since I've been working on this exhibition that I have decided to censor myself because of the reactions of the first journalists who entered this room. And I think it's a good decision. Nobody has told me to do it, certainly not the staff. The promoter said, yeah, it's cool, it's shock, it's, you know, he likes shock, he likes polemica, like you say in Italian. He likes this, but I just calmly explained to him that this was the last drop, you know. This could have been potentially a crisis situation in a few days or a few weeks. So I just wanted to tell you that story, just so you understand the implications of working on an exhibition like that. Sometimes you have to make choices as an artist and as a curator, and as to decide what to keep or not. And I think I did the right choice. We are arriving to the last little edition by my friend Roberto, who recreated a death row cell with Aileen. And this is an idea from the promoter to recreate the last meals. So if you're interested in this, there's also a museum in Michigan where you can actually eat the last meals of prisoners, which is cool. So there's a last meal from Bill Bundy, David Alan Gore, and Warner's, Bundy, Danny Rolling. So that's it. I think I've shown you the bulk of the expo, but of course the best is to come. It will be normally the last date in Europe before we hit the US next year in 2026. The expo will close in January of 2026. I will come back. I'm here for the first days, but I will come back probably on October 25, because there is a book signing with Dr. Beneke, which is a very famous criminologists here, and yesterday I met a lot the top, most famous criminologists in Berlin. We had a very interesting talks. They will be on social media and on national German media because everything was filmed. And I had a very interesting dialogue with Germany's top profiler. So if you're German, you definitely can find this online. And I wish you a farewell until next video.